Lovely to meet you all. I'm, in fact, not me leading the session, but I am a member of Turn2Us. My name's Gopi. I work in the local programs team. You can see our Turn2Us team are sitting in our lovely office over in Hammersmith. So I'll pass over to Jules, who'll be leading the session.
Thanks, Gopi. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome from Turn2Us. And we're really delighted to be part of the London Funders Festival this week. So thank you very much for having us. My name is Jules Tompkins. I'm the head of National Grant Programmes at Turn2Us, and I'll be chairing the discussions this morning. Before we start, I'd like to hand over to my colleagues who will also be speaking to introduce themselves. Charlotte?
So I'm Charlotte Moss. Morning, it is morning still. Morning to you all. So I work in the local programmes team as programme manager for our work in Barking and Dagenham.
Hi everyone, I'm Ollie Bellamy. I work alongside Jules in our National Grants team as a Grant Programmes Officer.
Thank you, Holly. Hello everyone, I'm Victoria and I'm the Senior Partnerships Development Officer here at Turn2Us in the information team.
Thanks, Victoria. And then online we have Gopi.
Hi everyone, I'll introduce myself one more time. I work with Charlotte in the local programs team.
And Katie.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager and I work to build relationships with local councils and charities and organisations like lots of us here today.
Lovely, thanks everyone. So today we're going to be talking about partnerships and sharing some examples of our work at Turn2Us. I know there is a huge range of partnership experience amongst the audience joining us today, including some people that I've been fortunate enough to collaborate with in the past. I hope you find some of our reflections helpful and potentially thought-provoking. We're going to share some examples from the work we're doing across the Turn2Us Programmes and Partnership Directorate and how our values, accountability and sharing power are key principles that are helping to shape our work. We know power is a subjective concept. At Turn2Us, this is something we are continuously exploring and trying to better understand in different contexts. When we think about power, we consider the power we hold in relation to our funding, decision-making and partnerships, and also the power that others bring to the table and their influence with communities, systems and impact. We haven't defined power as it's such a dynamic and subjective idea, but something we think is key to building sustainable partnerships and continuing to support us to listen, learn and improve. To kick us off, we wanted to invite everyone who's joining us to share any thoughts that you may have about what sharing power looks like in your partnerships or funding relationships. If everyone could we'll just pause for a minute and we'd really encourage you if you would just share any thoughts and even a word in the chat as to what power looks like for you in the work that you do. We'd be really grateful to and interested to see what you think. Thanks for kicking us off, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. These are really resonating with us. So please carry on sharing while we're talking. And if at any point you have any questions as we're going along, please use the chat. And we've got time at the end for some Q&A. So while we're continuing to capture those thoughts, I just wanted to kick us off by thinking about some of our work more broadly at Turn2Us. And before we dive in, into the detailed examples, I wanted to provide a short overview as a way of introduction. So Turn2Us was established in 1897 and is always focused on supporting people experiencing poverty, hardship and financial insecurity. Our vision is that everyone in the UK has financial security so they can thrive. And we've defined that as being having enough money to live well now and having the resources, both individually and collectively, to build confidence in the future. And this definition of financial security helps to guide our programmes. Our 4 organisational values are an integral part of our work and our culture. And our work is guided by our 2023 to 28 strategy, which centres around the 3 priorities that you can see on the screen. Next slide, please. So the Programmes and Partnerships Directorate is made up of 4 teams. We have our information programmes, our local programmes, our national grants, and the Edinburgh Trust. And just to give you a little bit more information about what our work looks like. So we deliver place-based programmes, and these are a combination of citywide grant-giving collaborations in the case of the Edinburgh Trust, and 3 hyper-local collaborative programmes that work with communities in Middlesbrough, Barking and Dagenham, and Greater Manchester. And these programmes have been delivered over a period of at least 10 years. We provide grants to individuals, and this has been a core part of our work since the very beginning. We distribute around £3.5 million each year in individual grants, supporting people experiencing financial insecurity across the UK. On a national level, we have 4 core programmes. These provide grants to people experiencing financial insecurity in different ways. For example, some people are experiencing an acute crisis and need immediate help. Others have gone through a life-changing event, and our grants are integrated alongside specialist support provided by partners. And in our newest programme, we are piloting grants that support single-parent families to be able to focus on the future and take a step towards thriving and financial security in whatever way that looks they would like that to look for them. Finally, our information programmes lead our work on income maximisation. We provide free online tools, including a benefits calculator and grant search, combined with extensive information on our website and access to a telephone helpline. Wherever possible, we aim to co-produce our work with people who have lived experience of financial insecurity, and we consider ways in which we can share power with those experiencing financial insecurity, and we work in partnerships with local and national organisations to build impactful collaborations. And as you can see, we're currently supported by 141 partnerships across all of our programmes in the Directorate. I'm now going to hand over to my colleagues who work in 3 of the teams within the Directorate to talk about some of our partnerships and explore accountability, sharing power and embedding values in more detail. Charlotte? Thank you.
So when we talk about accountability within Turn2Us and within my team as well, we think about what that means is that we can explain kind of responsibility for our actions that we take to different stakeholders, and how we can grow relationships where partners feel able to both ask us questions and really hold us to account, and understand their roles and responsibilities in the partnership as well. And that's a key facet to how we build trust in our relationships, to make sure that these aren't just transactional relationships. In order for us to get the best results, we need to work together. So in Barking and Dagenham, we're currently working with 3 partners with hyper-local projects. And I'm going to talk today about Kingsley Hall, where we've been working with co-production partners, so residents who make decisions about what we're doing. And part of the co-production projects we were doing, which was to create a community map, meant that they had to go out into local communities to actually distribute the map. So we really wanted to make sure that they had safeguarding training that was going to support them to do this. But when we think about accountability, we wanted to think about actually how we make this actually a whole rounded experience for them. So when I thought about this in kind of detail, there were kind of 4 key areas that kind of fell under. So it's kind of transparency from the outset, participation and inclusion, monitoring and learning, and feedback and response. So when it comes to transparency, one of the things that we've learned very much in our programme is to really share our objectives and our plans in advance, including budget as well, because we want to provide some certainty to our partners and we don't want to appear mysterious or anything like that. So very much kind of putting everything out there and our plans so the partners know what to expect from us. That also means that we can plan things like this training, we can plan it around the capacity of our partners, in hoping that actually through sharing those kind of that kind of information, we can then actually work together to find out where are peaks and troughs and where is it that actually they're going to have a lot going on, recognising we're not the only project that they're doing. Communication is a really big thing to do that, and actually planning kind of catch-up calls that we have, and putting in meetings kind of almost into the next year as well, to make sure that we again are responding to that capacity, but also that we're committing to do that. So really understanding the time that Kingsley Hall had, and that they could spend with this project, and then actually how we can then work alongside them with that. We also, one of the things that we also wanted to do is that sometimes the journey of co-production partners can feel, again, a bit of a mystery. So what was really important is that we wanted to say to co-production partners in advance that this was something that we were going to do. And by doing that, actually it gave them kind of more ownership of the training and actually kind of pointed us in the direction of some of the things that they wanted in the session. And that helped us to design something that's more relevant for them in the project, but also is more practical. You know, this was very much like a task they were going out into the community to do. So that was really helpful as well, so that we were transparent about what we were delivering, but also kind of understanding where we were meeting people. When we're working with individuals who have experience in financial insecurity, what we're really careful that we don't want to do is that we don't want to patronise people. And especially if we're kind of an organisation coming into the community. So rather than this being kind of a safeguarding training that was kind of done to people and was very much like, this is what we need to do, it was very much about letting them know our accountabilities to them in doing this project, Kingsley Hall's accountability, and also the co-production partners' own responsibilities as well. It was more, we wanted to create more of a forum for discussion and for people to learn. And that meant that actually we learned a lot more about kind of the relevant things in the community, the barriers that there might be for people actually accessing things. One thing that we wanted to really also learn and listen to was that we had done kind of safeguarding training with co-production partners where we have that direct relationship, but actually we wanted this to really be, so co-production partners, I've just seen a comment. So the co-production partners are the residents that kind of work with us to design the programmes that we're running in our local programmes, but they also work with other members of the team as well to make sure that any kind of projects or strategy or any kind of direction we're working in is informed by them. So in terms of the organisation, we work with them in different ways, but that's really core to what we're doing in local programmes. In terms of, sorry, I've just lost my train of thought, but I will get back to it. So yeah, so in terms of actually, this was a really specific scenario that we were doing this training for, but it also allowed us to kind of get links and understand how people saw safeguarding in their community and what that kind of means to them. So that was a real good learning for us because it helped us to understand the non-statutory kind of routes, which I think for us, we very much go bang, bang, bang. This is where you go if you have some kind of disclosure, or if there's some issue that you're worried about. When it comes to our monitoring and learning, a real key thing for us is that we want to make sure that activities that we're doing have the intended impact on the community. And part of the way that we do this is to make sure that we're learning and keeping information that is right and proper for our purposes, but also not holding information that we don't need to learn as well. So one of the things that we kind of did to kind of promote that relationship within the community is that our co-production partners are contracted to Kingsley Hall. So, you know, they would very much manage that relationship, but it meant that they could go to Kingsley Hall for things that weren't just about this project. So that was really important for us. Any communications that we have, we would always do them compliant with GDPR. So being really mindful to think of, you know, names and particular place names that would really, you know, specify an individual. So we worked with Kingsley Hall to make sure that the co-production partners kind of got the details they needed to know. So, you know, naming someone if they had an action, but actually when we wrote up in, say, a report for our internal learning, for external learning, actually we kind of held each other to account and made sure that that information was all clear and didn't actually expose anyone or make them identifiable. A real key thing for us was around sharing kind of quality data. So Kingsley Hall kind of would come to us with that data, anonymous, of course. And one of the things we want to make sure is that actually our programmes our co-production pool and the people that we're working with are reflecting the community that they also represent as well. So working in Barking and Dagenham, which is an extremely diverse area, we want to make sure that actually the work that we're doing, that the safeguarding training we were having, it's actually going to be something that fit all of the people that were in the training as well. So making sure it had relevant examples for everyone. And one of the things that's really key in Turn2Us as well, and especially for our partners, I think it's important, is that we also commit to actually sharing our learning within the organisation as well. So every fortnight in the directorate, we send emails around to update people of any learning that we've done or any opportunities to learn. And we also have kind of internal learning sessions as well. So kind of webinars, that kind of thing like this, but to internal staff as well, because we want to learn from each other as well. And that also helps us to be accountable to our partner. Lastly, I wanted to just touch on feedback and response. So one of the things for us is when you're in a relationship, you don't just get trust, you have to kind of earn it. So one of the things that we really want to think about is that we want the unsaid to be said, as ultimately that's going to improve whatever we're doing. And those awkward feelings that you might have, they don't just go away just because it's not said. So we can feel it in the relationship and the atmosphere when you go into a meeting room. So actually we need to put processes in place with Kingsley Hall and with our co-production partners to make sure we got that feedback. One of the things we did for this was that we had kind of an evaluation questionnaire for the co-production partners, and we also had some kind of reflection as well for Kingsley Hall to give to us. One of the things we learned was actually that we left too much time there, whereas we thought people needed to like decompress. Actually, they needed less time than we thought they did. And so that's a real kind of learning for us, is that, you know, we didn't want to miss anything, and unfortunately we may have done that. But what really helps with that is that we'd then be able to say, you know, if we were to do this again, these are the changes we would make, and relaying that back to Kingsley Hall and back to co-production partners. And a real key thing for us as well was we were very keen and conscious of safeguarding training, making sure people had support, or knowing that they could go to have support places they could go to. So whether that was in the training room, so that people could take breaks and take themselves physically out of the space if they needed to allow themselves to kind of breathe and digest, but also afterwards as well. What our feedback loop kind of showed us was that actually one of the things that we actually missed was information before. So actually, whilst we kind of informed that we were doing a training, actually having some support things there was something that the group really would have valued. So that really came back from our feedback as well. One more thing that we also kind of learned was getting that balance between the people in the room who have had safeguarding training, know what safeguarding is about, and those people that don't have that knowledge or don't think they have that knowledge. So it was also kind of recognising the different groups in the room. So kind of to round up, you know, accountability to us is almost like a conversation, and making sure that we're continuously doing that with each other. If I now hand it over to Ollie.
Thanks, Charlotte. Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm going to talk about sharing power now, and in the context specifically of our crisis response grants and specifically through our partnership with Northampton Food Bank. So first, a little bit of context on our crisis grants. In the winter of 2021, following a couple of short-term grants to support people impacted by COVID, Turn2Us national grants team started delivering crisis response grants. Through our crisis response programme, we give grants to individuals and households experiencing an emergency situation. This means that they can't pay priority bills, can't afford to buy food or toiletries, or are struggling with some other essential costs. We've delivered the grants via referrals from our own helpline and from local and national partner organisations, and the majority of households received a grant of between £2,000 and £2,200. And so far, these grants have primarily been given to single-parent households and out-of-work households with children, which were groups that our research showed particularly struggling at the moment. And through our crisis response programme, we also trialled a new trust-based model for our grant making, which we're now using across all of our grant programmes. This meant stripping back the evidence and documentation we asked of applicants and instead prioritising listening to their stories and believing them, to reduce the burden on applicants, to make them feel more supported throughout the process. So, in June 2022, having already delivered the first round of crisis grants, we were looking for new referral partners to work with, and so we approached North Paddington Food Bank. We were looking for a partner in Westminster, as we had received a grant from a Westminster-based funder and were keen to reach people in the borough. And we also already had a connection with the food bank via our Director of Programmes and Partnerships, Sarah, who volunteered there. In addition, they were also using our benefits calculator, so already had an awareness of Turn2Us. As well as these pre-existing links, North Paddington Food Bank's work resonated with us as they use a cash-first model, meaning that they give cash to people to spend themselves on what they need, instead of giving food directly, which gives more choice and agency to people. Because of all of this, they seemed like a perfect partner to work with on this grant, and we started off by giving them 20 referrals to the programme, using an identical model to all of our other referral programmes, where we held the majority of the resource and decision-making power. The initial grants went well, and so we met with North Paddington Food Bank to discuss the possibility of doing more with them. When we spoke, we could see that there was a strong alignment with their approach and values, with the changes we were making to our grant making, and with what we were trying to achieve through the programme. In particular, we saw an alignment with their emphasis on dignity and providing choice, whilst they were on board with our trust-based approach. Due to the success of this first round, this partnership felt like a place where we could work more collaboratively, innovate, and start to share more power. So in our discussions, North Paddington Food Bank highlighted a particular issue in the area, which was a lack of local advice services. And this was making it hard for people to move on from a reliance on emergency support. However, North Paddington Food Bank did not have the capacity to provide this advice directly. We recognised the power that we held in the relationship, both financially and in the decisions we were making on the design of the grant, and so we wanted to listen to North Paddington Food Bank in order to collaboratively redesign the model from the previous round into something that more effectively meet the needs that they identified. And so, based on this feedback, we worked together to develop a model for the next round of grants that would enable people to access advice alongside grant support. What this meant in practice is that we provided financial support to allow North Paddington Food Bank to recruit an advice worker. This worker, alongside making a referral from the grant, was able to work with each individual to identify their current financial issues and the goals that they were hoping to achieve, and then to support them in working towards those goals through support such as budgeting advice, benefits advice, and signposting. By funding this role, we were able to be responsive to the situation that North Paddington Food Bank was seeing on the ground and to help people make the most of the grant when they received it. And we recognised that North Paddington Food Bank were much better placed to deliver tailored and locally applicable advice themselves than if Turn2Us had tried to do this. So in this round of grants, we gave grants to 80 households, and everyone received the same value of grant and was able to access the same level of advice. Up to this point, Turn2Us had paid all the grants directly in one lump sum or up to 3 large monthly instalments. However, this time, half of the grantees instead received smaller weekly payments over a 6-month period. We introduced the weekly payment option as it aligned more closely with the way that North Paddington Food Bank offers support, and they felt that this would be beneficial for some of the grantees. And it also gave us an opportunity to learn more about the impact of two different models of grant support. However, Turn2Us was not set up to deliver the weekly payments to people, whereas that is something that North Paddington Food Bank have expertise in. So we agreed to transfer funds directly to them to distribute on our behalf, which was the first time that Turn2Us National Grants Team had done this in our grant making with any organisation. And this relied on an effective sharing of resources and a high level of trust, as not only were North Paddington Food Bank distributing the money on our behalf, they also had the decision-making power over deciding which households met the criteria without Turn2Us having oversight on individual cases when the grant was made. This was possible due to the relationship we have built with them and the trust that we had in each other. We were aligned in who we were trying to support through the programme. The evidence from the weekly payments was really positive. It encouraged a high level of engagement with the advice service. For the weekly payments, 75% of households displayed high engagement with the project, whereas for the other group, 65% showed low engagement across the 6 months. And this in turn had a direct impact on the longer term financial security of the households. Whereas 45% of the lump sum recipients required additional emergency support within 3 months of the grant, none of the weekly grantees requested any additional support during the full 6-month period. And it was important for us to understand the impact and to see the value in a power sharing approach. Whilst at times it was uncomfortable to give up some of the control ourselves, the impact shows that it was clearly a worthwhile step to take for our grantees. And by gathering a greater understanding of each other's work and the evidence that our power sharing approach was successful, we were also able to show the rest of Turn2Us that this was an approach that we should continue trying. This was important as it was a new way of working that we needed the organisation to be on board with if we were going to continue in this way. And also many other teams support us in delivering our grants. And since then, the partnership has continued to evolve. In our most recent round of grants, we gave grants to another 40 households, and this time all via the weekly payment method. And alongside the groups we had previously supported, we also gave grants to a small number of single disabled people. This was a group that North Paddington Food Bank had identified as a particular priority for them due to a recent surge in demand and a lack of other support available in the area. We trusted that North Paddington Food Bank had the expertise in how the grant would be most effective for their community, and so by giving grants to this group, we were able to support them to help people who otherwise they would have struggled to support. It also allowed us to gather some insight and learning into another group that we had not traditionally targeted with our grant making. And so throughout the partnership, as we developed our relationship and shared more power, listening and sharing learning has been key. It has allowed us to understand where each other's strengths lie and to be flexible in the way in which we are supporting people through our grants. And by being responsive to what North Paddington Food Bank have identified, rather than simply dictating that they take on more work and responsibility, we've hopefully shared power in a responsible way that supports North Paddington Food Bank's work and makes the most of their expertise, instead of it just being an additional burden on them and making them do things they didn't ask for and maybe are not best equipped to do. So the partnership model has been mutually beneficial as well, as the experience has helped us develop a partnership model that is replicable with others, and also has helped us understand the potential impact of advice alongside money in a crisis setting such as a food bank. And on the other hand, North Paddington Food Bank also now has experience of delivering grants in partnership alongside their other services, which opens the door for them to potentially do more of this support in the future. So, to conclude, overall, a high level of trust, open communication, our shared values, and recognising each other's expertise has allowed us to share more power in the partnership and give North Paddington Food Bank more control over decision making and resources. This allowed us to try new ways of supporting people and to achieve a greater impact together for our grantees. The impacts we saw show that, when done well, power sharing is not just the quote-unquote right thing to do, but has clear benefits for us, our partners, and most importantly, our grantees. And now I'll hand over to Victoria for the last case study.
Thank you, Ollie. So I'm Victoria, and I'm just going to recap. I work in Turn2Us information team, and we're responsible for delivering programs that cover welfare benefits, income maximisation, and digital information like chatbots, the benefits calculator, the grant search, and soon to be launched PIP helper tool. In addition to coordinating partnership activity with our partner organisation. So today I'm going to be talking about our partnership with the Ealing Advice Service that happened in 2023. So firstly, I would like to talk about the formation of the partnership, and the lead partner was Ealing Mendcare. So Ealing Advice Service is a consortium of 10 agencies, advice agencies in the borough of Ealing. They offer residents free and confidential support. The partnership came about because due to the cost of living crisis, the advice agency was experiencing a surge in demand for benefits checks. Despite being at full capacity, the service prioritised benefit appeals and complex cases, resulting in longer waiting times for clients requiring benefits checks. To address this issue, the advice service reached out to Turn2Us to explore collaboration opportunities. So what were the partnership aims? The partnership aims was to ensure that advice agencies in the borough can receive more appropriate referrals, and also that frontline staff across various community services will be empowered to support residents in using the Turn2Us benefit calculator with the aim of enhancing support for residents. What was the activity? The activity was learning sessions for non-benefit specialists. So the Greater London Authority Fund Advice in the Community Settings programme provided funding to the Ealing Advice Service for Turn2Us to deliver a series of learning sessions to non-benefit specialist council staff. Who were the participants of these learning sessions? Participants included librarians, social prescribers, and mental health practitioners. The focus of the session was on how to use the benefits calculator and also an introduction to welfare benefits, covering the benefits on our calculator. And also how to better use Turn2Us website content on income maximisation, including grants, social tariffs, as well as benefits. So the next bit, we'll talk about our shared values. So basically collaboration, empowerment, alignment. So our partnership with the advice service reflects our shared vision of financial security for all. This vision is underpinned by our commitment to delivering high quality information and support, particularly to those most impacted by financial insecurity. Our collaboration aims to empower individuals and communities to build financial security by offering them the right resources and support. What was the learnings? Training non-benefit specialists like librarians and social prescribers can help to support advice agencies by enabling them to focus on more appropriate referrals like complex benefits claims and impairments. Also, another thing that we learned is doing these learning sessions to train frontline workers, it is crucial to have buy-in from the senior managers. We also noted that mental health teams expressed some reservations about the prospect of offering support around benefits, as they believed it may fall beyond their usual scope of responsibility. No impact. There was a reduction in benefit checks referrals to the advice service, and there was also a notable increase in benefits calculations in the borough between 2022 and 23 of 10%. As I said, the training was in 2023. Looking at the first quarter of the year, January to March, indicates that they're on course to sustain a higher level of calculations in the borough. They've also embedded a Turn2Us benefits calculator into local services. For example, the advice service now hold weekly benefit check drop-in sessions, which are run by a benefits caseworker alongside 2 volunteers to further support the community. These are quite well attended and a maximum of about 12 participants per session. I will now hand it over to Jules, who will summarise what we have been discussing with you today about power, accountability, and shared values. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you, everyone, for sharing some examples of the work that you lead day to day and the crucial role that our partnerships play. We really hope that that's given you some insights into our work, and I just wanted to summarise some of the points that we've shared. So we started with Charlotte sharing some examples of our work in Barking and Dagenham around accountability and the importance of transparency, participation, inclusion and learning. We then thought about how trust and strong foundations within the relationship are at the root of sharing power, alongside recognising and valuing the expertise that each partner can bring. And finally, as a values-led organisation, we want to try and be aligned with our partners, and it's important for us to understand how our values align and share insights into what our values mean in our work. So I'm now going to hand over to Katie, and we're going to have some time for some questions and answers. If you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Thanks, Katie.
No, thank you, Jules, and thank you everyone for all sorts of really interesting comments and questions coming in on the chat. So really good to hear from Mamta, who mentioned like making sure that you understand people's user journeys, and that's a lot of work that we've been doing at Turn2Us to actually understand the work that partners do before we kind of second best how they might want to work with us, second guess our grants or our tools. We really try and get to know their journeys too. So thank you, Mamta. Also, we've had comments from Kat, from Angela about working with organisations to build capacity and listening, being open and honest. Lots of feedback from Marco as well, from Wimbledon. So really, I guess our question wanted to be, we had a couple of questions we wanted to ask, and we can just throw this into the chat now, and all of us can take off our mics and share thoughts and comments on and opinions. But we wanted to ask, really, we kind of asked you at the beginning, how do you share power within your partnerships? Wanted to hear any examples of any experiences where you've worked with a partner where that's worked really well, because we've shared sort of 3 examples today, but has any of our 31 attendees got any experiences they'd like to share about sharing power? You don't all have to shout at once, but I may well pick on anyone who's already shared something in the chat. I mean, one theme, I'll give it another minute, but one theme that seems to be coming up a lot is honesty and acknowledging these different structural positions. And there's probably a real skill in doing that in a way which is transparent, acknowledging the inequity. Does anyone have any other experiences that they want to share? I'm just checking as well. Jess, can anyone comment? Can anyone take oh, they can't speak if they're not panelists, so it has to be in the chat. Understood. Sorry about that. We'll have
sorry,
to have
Katie, I was literally coming to flag. Yeah, because it's a webinar session, yeah, everything needs to go in the chat. So I suspect everyone's just taking their time, typing.
Take your time to share any experiences, perhaps, of what's worked and also what hasn't worked. You know, we've talked a lot in our case studies about what works, but feel free to share anything where you've tried to build a relationship or share power and it hasn't worked out, because we can only learn through where we've failed. So I'll give it another couple of minutes.
Gopi, would you mind sharing the chat on the screen, please?
Yes, thanks, Gopi.
Thank you so much.
Just give it another minute. I mean, one, so I work with Victoria in the partnerships team, and one experience we've had of sort of trying to share power is offering to go to partners' offices for in-person meetings. That's something I've been doing, just to kind of say, you know, we'll meet you on your level. That's a kind of small structural thing you can do. But to be honest, it hasn't really worked, because the partners have said, like, we all work remotely. You know, they actually saw that as more work for us to come to them, and so it's an example of where we thought we were kind of meeting them on a level by trying to meet them in their offices, but they were less inclined to do so. Oh, Mamta said, what monitoring tools did you apply to the grant giving? I think we can perhaps pick that one up at the end. Amy's made an interesting comment. So I wonder if one aspect of shifting power is reducing bureaucracy and processes in grant giving. And yes, Jules, do you want to say a bit about how we've done that? Unless anyone else in the audience has got any other examples of doing that. So reducing the bureaucracy in grant giving.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the, I think this is key with the shift that we've made to a more trust-based approach. And what that looks like in practice is that, as Ollie mentioned, we've really stripped back the level of information that we now ask for people to provide. And we try and focus very much on their individual stories. And we do that through conversations. Which requires, I mean, the skill level within the team can't be underestimated in terms of building trust with people who may not have had any contact with us before. And then we're asking them to explain what's happening for them. And that can be quite traumatic for some people. And we don't want them to have to repeat themselves and then prove their situation. And I think by focusing very much on believing people and saying to them, you know, we're open to listening to you. We want to understand what's happening and how we might be able to help you, rather than saying, can you send us bank statements? Can you send us, you know, welfare benefit statements? Can you prove that, you know, this is your situation? Actually, that really does help build trust, and that really reduces some of the bureaucracy. And on a very practical level, what that's enabled us to do as well is we can distribute these grants sometimes within a day or 2 days. I think our average turnaround is about 2 days for people between when they are referred to us or referred to a partner and when we're able to then get money out to them, which is an incredibly fast turnaround time. But we wouldn't be able to do that if we were asking for lots and lots of extra information. And I think one of the reasons that we've made that shift is partly because we know that, especially when people are in crisis, they need money as soon as possible. That's the focus. They need help, and they often don't have the headspace to explore deeper issues at that point. And so we're really trying to be led by what people need and meet them where they are. Ollie, is there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I'd maybe just add that kind of the trust that we also have with the partner organisations, our referral organisations, is also really important, because it means that if we can trust a bit more that we're aligned on who this grant is for, what we're trying to achieve with the grant, then if we're getting referrals through, and whereas in the past we may have asked for evidence and gone backwards and forwards and been questioning, whereas now with that kind of trust, we can receive referrals, and we know that by and large that the people that have been referred are people that we're going to give grants to. And so it really reduces that kind of back and forth between us and the referral partner, because we're working more kind of collaboratively. It's less of a kind of just a pure transaction of you give us people and we'll give them money. And I think there's just like really kind of small practical things as well, whereas like initially when we were starting and we were kind of with North County Food Bank, and we realised that actually where they were collecting a lot of information and providing it on to us, we were kind of duplicating a lot of the information and where it was being stored. And so by working together to have one referral form as opposed to a referral form to the partner and then a referral form to us, it means everyone has full access and to all the information. It's only provided once, and also that partner has a lot more ownership of that information as well. It's not just all with us, and they have to kind of ask purely for us to kind of access it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits, and I think it's definitely an iterative process, and one doesn't come before the other, but it kind of, I think, reducing bureaucracy and sharing power kind of support each other really well.
That sounds great. So streamlining the amount of information you collect and trusting partners. Just going to pick up on a couple of comments in the chat. Kat has asked how people manage boundaries within partnerships. And I think this partly comes back to understanding the kind of where the power lies and sharing the power. But if anyone's got any examples of where they've been able to manage boundaries, and I think in a way we're kind of managing boundaries in the way that we're collecting less information. There's an element of trust there, but there's also your kind of you could argue that there's as Jules has outlined, like there's higher degree of risk in some ways, but that's a boundary that I think we're managing quite well at Turn2Us. But if anyone else has got any examples of how they've managed boundaries, please do feel free to share them in the chat. And Holly has said, being able to celebrate with funded organisations in the outcomes of their project has been a really wonderful way of them feeling supported. And I think that's another way of being honest and open in celebrating outcomes. Quite often, I'm sure everyone in this group has carved out the hour for this time today, but quite often in the public sector, in the charity sector, in the sort of charity arts sector, you might not always have time to carve out that time to celebrate achievements and celebrate outcomes. And that can be a really great way of celebrating success together with a partner, especially if you're working with lots of people in the voluntary sector, where it can be pretty thankless. So I think celebrating outcomes is a great one. Any other examples of managing boundaries are more than welcome.
Charlotte, I wondered if you had any examples on that from local programmes.
Trying to think of the best ones off the top of my head, because I think our relationship with up in Dagenham Council, it's something where we have a relationship and we kind of touch base kind of every 6 months and stuff, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, to kind of see like what are our priorities and what have we learned, and they share the same back as well to help us then see how we could work together, how we were aligned. So I think for us, that's the thing within kind of statutory services. In terms of kind of non-statutory, non-charity, we have less of those partnerships at the moment.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think another fundamental part of managing boundaries, as Charlotte touched on and Ollie did as well, is communication, and having open communication, regular communication, but also trying to create a space in the partnership for people to be honest, recognising that, things don't always go exactly according to plan. It's important that people feel able to share that, to reflect on it, to understand what perhaps could have been done differently, how we might want to work differently going forward. And I think that is such a crucial part of both managing boundaries and making sure expectations are clear at the beginning, but building in the scope to reflect and to share learning and to understand like how we can continue to improve, and really listening to both parties or to all parties, and understanding what, where things are going really well and how we can do more of that, but also where maybe there's areas for us to have a little bit of a rethink, or to even to revisit some co-production and see what the experience has been like for the people who we're trying to support.
Definitely, and I think just building on that mantra from Hounslow mentioned earlier, just recognising when partners are busy is really important, and not overburdening during their busy times, but also, as you say, Jules, like communicating what our outcomes are for any funders on our side, or what the aims are, so that despite them being overburdened or busy, you kind of make it really clear that these are the outcomes you're working towards together. And Kat, absolutely agree on emphasis on empathy, trust, clarity, reflective space for iteration. I think making it a space within the partnership where it's okay to fail. So it's, if it's fine to not have your mic on or send the wrong document, like small things, but also perhaps to miss a meeting here and there, like we're all human. And I think that's something we try and bring to our partnerships. Like we can be professional, but it's okay to make mistakes within the partnership. Polly has shared, our experience has been that most times we have needed to have a difficult conversation about boundaries. They've tended to go really well. That's a really interesting insight. I think people do respond well to kind of clarity and openness. And thank you, Kat, for your feedback. I also wanted to pick up just finally, I think we've got a few more minutes. Sarah from Turn2Us mentioned earlier, she'd be curious to know what skills people have learned and kind of through partnership working. So if anyone wants to take a moment to celebrate themselves and any skills that they think they've learned, whether that's listening, understanding co-production, are there any skills that you are growing either yourself or it could be within your partnership teams? And if you're not working in partnerships.
Victoria, do you have any you want to share? Putting you on the spot.
Should we put that to the panel first, and then the attendees, please feel free to add your skills in the chat.
Thank you, Jules. Katie, could you just repeat, I think it was Sarah's question.
What skills have you learned through partnership working and new ways of working?
Well, I suppose my skills have been enhanced. I think key to partnership working is building trust. And I think part of building trust, not only is it a bit to being honest, open and transparent, but also doing what you say that you're going to do. So I think that is you're going to be reliable, we're going to be doing this at this point, juncture or not. And if there are any issues, that they should be tackled as early as possible. And also boundaries are very important. Also setting very clear expectations, what's expected from each partner and the people who are working within the partnership as well. I think that's very important.
Definitely. Ollie and Charlotte, do you have any examples of skills that you think either skills that are needed or skills that you've developed?
Off the top of your head.
I guess I'm not sure if it's necessarily a skill. I guess it probably is. It's just, I guess, for me, it's definitely been that shift in thinking from we have to control everything, and any problem that comes up, we have to, like, I have to take it upon myself to go and solve it. Whereas actually, it should be much more of a collaborative thing, and sometimes we're not best placed to be the person to go and solve that problem. And so I think that skill in recognizing our place in the partnership and recognizing, the kind of, I guess, the kind of the ebbs and flows of the relationship and where to step in and where to step back, I think is really important, and it will vary from partnership to partnership. And I think picking up on just picking up on the dynamic of that particular partnership and the people you're working with is really important, because, and particularly when you initiate a partnership and you start to work with an organisation, if their expectations are that we're going to come, we're going to kind of do everything, the partnership won't work if we go in and immediately ask them to do this, and we put a load of responsibility on them. So I think it's about also, that kind of skill of like recognizing just like
what you bring to the table and what they bring to the table, and when to problem solve, absolutely, and when to step back and appreciate you can't always solve the problem. I'm going to pick up on Sarah from LCF, and apologies, Sarah, I can't see exactly what LCF stands for, so I'm not going to take any guesses. Sarah Amanto, if you could let us know your organisation, that always helps. Sarah says fund allocations are a massive consideration for power sharing. Has Turn2Us taken up that influence with donors to shape the amount, period and agility offered for partners? And if so, what has been the outcome and what are some tips? I'm wondering, Jules, if you could take that one. Thank you.
I think one of the key learnings that we've had from as our partnership work has increased and developed, is definitely about being realistic around timeframes and understanding that, whilst we might be ready to go and kind of raring to get started, that doesn't mean that partners are in the same place. And we need to, it's finding the balance between wanting to be able to deliver, but also wanting to go at their pace. And I think it's a lot of that expectation that we need to also manage with our donors, with our the partners that we're working with in other ways as well. And I think we try and build in as much flexibility as we can. So we think a lot about, we're working towards particular dates, but recognizing that lots of other things are going on, and whilst this might be our core work, it's not necessarily the core work of all the partners we're working with. So we need to try and make sure we're working around them, and we're asking our donors to come with us on that journey and continue to help us understand the need to have flexibility. Because actually, as Ollie was saying, if we set very kind of lots of expectations and we're setting them and we're saying this has to be done by this point, it's just not going to work. The dynamics are so different, and that's where our power, we're really leaning into that power. So I think it's just trying to have those conversations, and a lot of it does, again, come down to communication. And just, I saw there was a question about monitoring as well, just to pick up on that one. So monitoring is and understanding impact and learning is still very much a work in progress across all of our programs, I think it's fair to say. But I think one of the things that we've got much better at is We produce regular dashboards. When we're delivering grants, we share those dashboards with partners. So they include some very practical information like the number of grants, the amount of money that's been committed, but also they have live information about some of the demographics of the people that are being supported. So we can see that, you know, are we reaching the people that we're trying to reach? Are people, what's their situations? Is there anything that's coming through in the applications that we weren't expecting? So for example, we recognised through the cost of living programme that broken household goods was a massive reason for a lot of people finding themselves in some sort of crisis. So we were able to then build in some additional flexibility to support people if that was coming up. So I think having access to live information and live data is really key. And then we're also doing some reflective learning with the partners as well, so that we can start to feed that in. And from our first programme, our first crisis response programme, we actually did a peer-led evaluation. So that evaluation was actually led by some of our co-production partners who have themselves lived experience of financial insecurity, and were able to interview other people who'd benefited from those grants to understand what impact that work had had. And that's given us some really good insights that we can build on.
Thanks, Jules. I think we've picked up on most of the chat, so I'm just kind of looking through people, and I'm imagining most people here are like programs and partnerships manager, and I think we're lucky at Turn2Us in that we've got a programs team and a partnerships team, but there's probably real value in some of the attendees here who are both programs and partnerships managers, who can kind of see that overview on both the delivery side and building the partnerships. So whatever your job title, thank you for joining us. I think probably about time we wrapped up because it's 12:28. But thank you to all of you who have stayed. It's really great to see all 22 of you. If you've got any questions at all, you can see our contact details there. I'm also going to do a little plug if you'd like any of our Turn2Us tools, so our benefits calculator, our grant search, or our PIP helper tool. We can demo those tools to you, and I've popped the email address in the chat. You can also get the tools on your websites to help build the income of the audiences that you work with. So please do get in touch if you'd like any tools. And thank you very much for all of your insights, your questions, your energy today. Thank you, Christelle, and thank you, Rebecca. It's not too late for any kind of final queries in the chat, and I think the team at London Funders will hopefully be able to save this chat so that we can refer back to it. It is being recorded if you want to share it with colleagues. Kat, yeah, absolutely agree. There has been a shift in the way that we speak about it. It's something we're really proud of at Turn2Us, and kind of recognising interrelationships, as you put it. A more person-centred terminology. Yeah, I agree. And that can only be a good thing. So thanks for sharing that. And on that note, please do take a screenshot of this if you want to get in touch. I've put the partnerships email in the chat. Unless there's anything else from the London Funders team, that leaves me to thank our lovely panel, all four of them. I'm going to do a little clap. It's a bit strange. I kind of feel like a radio host because I can't hear any of the attendees, but please do thank the panel, Victoria, Charlotte, Jules, and Ollie, and thank you to London Funders for hosting us. We've really enjoyed the session.
Thank you, everyone.
Massive thank you to you. It was so interesting. I've taken down many notes. And thank you everyone for coming as well. Don't forget to continue to register for sessions. We still have a week and a half left of the festival, including our festival finale happening next Thursday afternoon. And of course, if you don't manage to get any of the contacts down this time, if you drop London Funders a line, we can always connect you up with the Turn2Us team as well. But thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you at other festival sessions during the festival as well. Thank you.